I'm going to talk about the FIRE movement, but make it black. The FIRE movement is financial independence, retire early. It has been around for a while. I assumed incorrectly that at this point, everybody was familiar with it. But that's not true. And so, sometimes I have to be reminded that I know stuff um, that maybe everybody doesn't know. So I'm just going to tell you like how I found it, um, what it is at a basic level, and sort of how I walked through it to help me like lay the foundation that I feel like I have today, which is like a pretty solid like financial foundation, right? Am I retired early? No, but I do take many retirements every year, and that's because of the foundation that I laid when I first learned about the FIRE movement. So, let's see. I'm Celeste. Hi, on this channel, I help mid-career professional Black women build a life of freedom that often involves talking about mindset, and often involves talking about money. And so today is going to be money. So I found the FIRE movement in 2019. Um, I was at that point like I was a contractor. I was making, I was doing okay. I live in a high cost of living area, so like doing okay is relative. But I was saving money. Like I had a emergency fund or whatever. But I also was spending a lot of money and spending it kind of mindlessly, like not even sure where it went. Um, didn't really have anything to show for it. And then other than like my savings growing, I couldn't point to any like long-term progress, like anything that was gonna be there for me, like 25 years down the road. I had like some old 401ks that I had rolled over, but like I wasn't doing anything serious at that moment. And then I went to the bookstore, and on an end cap in the bookstore I found this book, which I talk about and recommend all the time on this channel. It's called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. And this is the second edition. I had the first edition, and I lent it to my millennial coworker who spilled coffee on it. Um, and I couldn't even be mad at her because like I love to spill coffee or water on a book. This is my copy of The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins, which is another FIRE book that I'll talk about shortly, but like you can see. And then I love spilling water on like a library book. So I couldn't even be mad at her. So anyway, she bought me this the replacement. And in this edition, he's kind of like updated some of his like cultural references, and I mean he brought it up to date, but also like he acknowledges that he was kind of, young and immature, and like some of his, not as culturally sensitive as the man he is today. So he corrected a lot of that in this edition. But anywho, I got this, and then I got an Audible like free trial for some other stuff, and one of those books that I ended up getting was a FIRE book as well. It was oh my gosh, the author is Grant Sabatier. It's like financial freedom. I'll link it in the description for you. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I was like seduced by the title. I didn't know that that was a FIRE book. So between that book and this one, it kind of sent me down the rabbit hole of the FIRE movement. Now, this is actually not, I don't think most people consider this a FIRE movement book, but if you follow the steps in here, it does set you up for that. He is not one to say like, oh, the goal is to like get out of the rat race. He's just like, do these things and you'll end up with money. If you want to get out of the rat race at that point, you can. But he's not like banging the drum about like retire early. But this was sort of like the you know this opened the door to that whole world for me. Okay, so what I thought I would do is I'm just going to go through the chapter titles and kind of tell you like what I did. So the first one was, so the reason I recommend this book, let me back up a half step. The reason I recommend this book is because it is step by step. If you are somebody who is afraid to like, or just has questions about like, how do I open this account? Am I do I have enough money to even like approach this institution? And um like if you feel like you don't belong in the whole space of like investing and personal finance, his book is very approachable, and gives you scripts for like exactly what to say when you call your credit card company or call the phone company to get the bill lowered and all of that kind of stuff. So um, it's very beginner friendly. Okay, so the first chapter he has is optimize your credit cards. And it's basically what I just said, like calling them up, seeing if they'll lower the rate. I did try to do that. I was unsuccessful. I was mad too. You know how long I've had those credit cards? And they treated me like, we don't know who you are, ma'am. So they said no. I said, bet, because what I do have is good credit. So the negotiating didn't work. It may or may not work for you. We're in a different climate now. But what I did instead was a balance transfer to, I think it was Citibank. Um, and they gave me 15 months. Oh wait, no, it wasn't Citibank. It was it was American Express. And they gave me 15 months to um, pay off the balance. Now the thing with balance transfers is like if you don't pay off the balance in that time, then like the interest rate skyrockets. So you want to be really locked in. And so what I did is I said, okay, here's the balance. Um, here's what I'm going to throw at this every month. Like I took the total, I divided it by the 15 months that they gave me to pay it off and said, okay, move that to the top of the budget. That's the first thing, maybe like second after like rent. The second thing every month is I've got to throw this money at this credit card because the clock is ticking and I got to get it paid off in 15 months. So that was that. And then as I started going through this process and like reading further ahead in the book, I was like, well, dang, I want to do this other stuff. I want to do these other steps. But my money was tied up in trying to pay off this credit card. So I was getting antsy and I wanted to sorry, hold on one second. Okay. I wanted to get going. And I was like, okay, I have to do step one. So anyway, that was step one. Let me stop rambling. All right. Chapter two, beat the banks. So this is the high yield savings account step. So basically, I did a video about this called Where to Keep Your Money, something like that. I'll link it in the description. But basically, I was like, okay, is my money optimized where it is? Oh, hey, Dr. Linda. Um, and it wasn't. My money was at the local bank earning point oh whatever percent. And then I had like a little bit in some CDs. So as those CDs came to maturity, I took the money and moved it to my American Express high yield savings account. And so that's how I got started with that. So again, if you want to know about high yield savings accounts, long story short, you earn higher interest on your money. Um, they don't usually have brick and mortar locations. So this is all like online banking, which is good if you have a problem with keeping your hands off your money because it takes like a couple of days for the money to get to you. So you have to like really want it. And, it just makes you like pause, think about if you really want to withdraw from your savings or not. So it kind of helps you with the discipline of building it up. All right, so that was step two. I would also say in step two, this is a good place to keep your emergency fund. Um, yeah, so I'll leave it at that. All right, step three, his chapter three is get ready to invest. So this is open your 401k and Roth IRA, even with just $50. I had an IRA only because I had a financial advisor way back in the day in my 20s, who opened one for me, and was trying to like help me establish good financial habits. And then as I left jobs over the course of my career, I would like dabble in the 401ks, like, nothing serious. But whatever I managed to accumulate, I would send to him and have him add it, roll it over and add it to my um IRA. Those, yeah, okay, let me pause there. I did not have a Roth IRA. I don't think I really knew what they were. Um, so 2019. Oh, actually, let me back up a step. I'm gonna do IRA and then I'm gonna do 401k. Okay. So I mentioned that financial advisor. So every quarter, though, I would get a statement from that advisory firm, and they had like been through some changes in ownership and all this kind of stuff. And they kept moving my money from one investment to another. And every time they did, it was like costing me money. And so every time they sent me a statement, there was a $75 charge for what I thought was like not that much money in there and not, returns that weren't that great. And so um when I found this book and I learned that I could direct my investments myself and not pay $75 every quarter for God knows what, I uh, used his script, his letter, wrote to my, financial advisor, said, thank you for your service. However, I will be moving my money. So this book helped me open my first Vanguard account. There's a little story there. I heard about Vanguard way, way back, like 2008, maybe. And I was reading, I don't know, a magazine, and they were like, oh, it's the best thing ever, low fees, whatever. But all their funds had a $3,000 minimum. I was like, $3,000 locked up that I can't, oh my God. I just couldn't imagine having not even locked up, but just like $3,000 to like hand over to one institution. Um, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. And I just wasn't financially in a place to do it. Um, but fast forward to 2019, I'm like, I have these um CDs that are maturing. Some I did put into American Express, but I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I could put some in a Roth. Okay, I have a little bit of money, an emergency fund that I wouldn't miss, that wouldn't like drain it to zero. Maybe I could put some of this money together. I don't know. So, what I ended up doing, because I still couldn't get over the $3,000, um, Schwab has, okay, let me back up a step. So the investment that you'll hear people talk about in the FIRE movement a lot, like the favorite investment, is this index fund called VTSAX. And it's a total stock market fund. And it's a low fee fund that invests like a little bit in all the the largest companies or whatever. And so that's why they call it total stock market. Like it's a little piece of like the whole stock market. So that means you're like diversified rather than buying, $1,000 worth of one stock, you own like a little bitty piece of a bunch of stocks, right? So, but again, the buy-in was $3,000. And I was like, I ain't got it. I mean, I got it, but I don't want to, put it all of it. You need all. So anyway, um, so Schwab has a very similar fund called SWTSX. Um, I don't know what the Schwab Total Stock Market, like, I don't know what it stands for off the top of my head, but it's got very similar investments. So I literally like pulled up the prospectus of one of them, pulled up the other one, was like, okay, what's the top holdings? They're pretty much the same, because they're designed to, do the same thing, which is mimic or mirror the stock market. And they had no minimum. So I'm like, oh, I can just buy in with $10 and just like add it up over time. And then once, like I can put in a little bit every paycheck. And then once I have it up to $3,000, I can take that and move it over to the Vanguard fund that I want. So that's what I did. So that's how I bought my first Vanguard index fund, um, that had a $3,000 minimum. All right. So, um, oh, I said I was going to go back to Roth IRA. So all I want to say about that is, um, this book really helped take like the intimidation out of like, how do I do this? Where do I go? I did it all online. It's very easy. They have really good guidance in their on their website for how to do things. And then I also had Ramit helping me. And then like once I finally had my Roth IRA open and my $3,000 buy-in to this fund, I felt like I wanted to put on a smoking jacket and smoke a pipe. Like I felt like I had really done something. But yeah, so that was me opening my Roth. What I did not know at the time that I know now is that once you like 5 years after you make your first contribution into a Roth IRA, because you paid tax on it when you put the money in, because that's after tax money. You get paid, you get your paycheck, you take some money, you send it over to Vanguard and say, put this in my Roth IRA and invest it in, like once it's in there, invest it in this, right? 5 years after you make your first one of those transactions, you can pull out all of the money that you put in without penalty, like for any reason at any age. Doesn't have to be for education or a home or anything, like for any reason. um so I kind of now treat that as like a backup retirement, or not retirement, a backup emergency fund, because I'm like, if things go left, now that it's over 5 years later, I can withdraw that money. So I didn't really know that when I opened it. I was just trying to like catch up on retirement because I was late, but that was like a little bonus. Okay, so that's Roth IRA. 401k. So Roth IRA is post-tax or after-tax money. 401k and traditional IRA is pre-tax money. That is money you have not paid any taxes on yet. So I had a 401k that I was not contributing to, um, because when I first started working at this place, they didn't have a 401k. Then they introduced one, but they didn't have a match. And I was like, well, what's the point? Then they introduced a match, and I still was a little slow to to get in it. But then I finally was like, I found this book, and he was like, get on it, get in the 401k, at least up to the match. So that's what I did. I got in it up to the match. Um, like a lot of people who are hesitant to contribute to 401ks, I thought like, oh, I need the money now. I can't spare it. Oh my gosh, it's going to make my paycheck go down so much. I can't do it. So I put in just up to the match, barely noticed any difference in my paycheck. I was like, oh, because what I didn't realize is that it doesn't come out of your check dollar for dollar. Um, yeah. So I kept like inching it up, inching it up. And then by the time I drank the Kool-Aid fully on the FIRE movement, I was like, max it out. So there were a couple years there because I was like, so I should say, like at the same time as I started getting into this, I got into, let's see, the Budgetnista, Tiffany Aliche. I did like one of her challenges. And I also found like all the FIRE podcasts, because like once you find one, you kind of find all of them because they tend to be like a tight knit community, or one of them will be a guest on the other one's podcast and all that. So I was down the rabbit hole, and I was looking at these people who were retiring at, 40, um, just living these wonderful lives. And I was like, how? How? Now, I should say the FIRE movement has a reputation for being younger, for younger people with higher incomes. It does tend to be a very, um, I would say, the representation in it is tends to be a lot of white people. Um, but I will also say they are very welcoming, very kind people, very open to like sharing information. Um, I went to FinCon, which is like a financial media conference where a lot of the people in that community attend, and they were lovely people. And there are some diverse voices in that movement as well. Rich and Regular is a couple I can think off the top of my head. Kirsten and Julian, um, and Jamila Souffrant from Journey to Launch podcast. I'll link these in the description. But I'm just trying to think of like off the top of my head. I think Popcorn Finance is another one. So like there are some like prominent Black voices in that space, but it just has this reputation. Um, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. Okay, so let me get back on track. So I told y'all about the Roth 401k, how I opened my Vanguard account. All right, so then the next thing, chapter 4, conscious spending. So this is where I had to get my budget together. So I told you guys I was spending money. I didn't even really know where it went. Oh, hey, Lori. Um, so yeah, so this is the first time I sat down and wrote out a budget. And I was early 40s at that point. I had just kind of said like, oh, well, pay the rent and pay the utilities, and as long as that's done, like whatever else, like, kind of throw something in the direction of your savings account. But like, you know, that was there was no intention. Let me say it that way. There was no intention. So I put together my first budget, and I realized that I had way more discretionary income than I realized because I just had never seen it on paper. I will say one other thing. If you guys remember Mint, rest in peace, Mint.com, that was a fantastic service for tracking your spending and understanding where your money is going. So I had signed up for Mint, and I connected all of my accounts, my credit card, my checking account, and it would like categorize what I was spending. And actually, I should have started with that, because in order to do the budget, I kind of like, what your housing costs, you kind of know stuff that has you get a bill for it, you can look at it and see what it costs. But other stuff, I was just making up numbers. I was like, oh, I think I spend this much on food. Mint was like, girl, no, you spent $700. Because I wasn't counting the almond lattes I was getting every day. So I could just like, that was like my motivation to go to that job I hated, right? I was like, okay, well, at least when I get there, I can go get the really good coffee. The going out to lunch, the going to happy hour to drown my sorrows about how terrible the job was. The convenience foods, oh, it's Friday night, I don't feel like cooking, let me order. Like all of that is food in the food budget in addition to groceries. And I really was not counting all of it. So Mint helped show me on screen like that I was spending more than I thought. And then it also would give you like, it would show you trends. So you could see like, oh, in summer, my spending on pedicures goes up, or, whatever it is, fill in the blank, right? So even though Mint has now gone, Intuit bought them, somebody, Credit Karma, somebody bought them, I don't know. But Rocket Money is a good free replacement for them. If you sign up for my newsletter, I'm going to give you the URL. So if you go to resetwithceleste/budget, I have a budget download that you can use. So it's a spreadsheet that's really similar to the one that I started using in 2019 when I was getting all the stuff together. Um, and also, I will send you um, some tips for using Rocket Money because I recently tested it out because I wanted to be able to recommend a product to people now that Mint is gone. So I've been testing Rocket Money. I like it. Um, you don't have to use they have a service that like finds your subscriptions and cancels them or whatever. You don't have to use that part. But just for like the budget tracking and seeing where your money is going so that you can get, because what you need is the baseline to put into your budget. You need like the real numbers, an average of a couple of months, because 1 month can be an outlier. So you need the average that you can put on that line in your budget. Okay, so that was the conscious spending. There were some moments of truth in the conscious spending. That was rough. That was rough. But we made it. Okay, let's see. Chapter 5: Save while sleeping. Oh, okay, yeah. This one is where Ramit started talking about automatic transfers and automatic stuff. And I was like, it was very uncomfortable. So basically, instead of you getting paid and saying, okay, now I'm gonna it's payday, I got my check, I'm gonna now transfer $200 to savings, and I'm gonna now transfer $150 to my Roth IRA. No, no, no. He says, set it up on autopilot. Don't even touch it. Take yourself out of the equation. You just tell Vanguard every other Friday, or maybe if you get paid on Friday, maybe you have them do it on Monday. You tell them every other Monday, pull $150 out, put it in my Roth. You tell, whatever institution, your American Express, every other Tuesday, pull $200 out, put it in savings. Or you do it the other way. You tell your bank to send it over, right? Um, for somebody who was like taking the baby steps through this process, the idea of just money automatically going where it's supposed to go without my hand in it um, was scary. Even though I had a budget, I knew I could see that the rent was paid and the thing was paid or whatever, but like still, I want to tell the people when to I want to send it over. I don't. So yeah, that was very uncomfortable, but that's the point. The point is that you take yourself out of the equation. You take the human factor and all of our foibles out of the equation, and you just let the system work. And it reduces, well, he says like it's one less thing you have to think about. So um I listened, I did it. You can also, if you want to go a step beyond that, and I never got to this step because I was like, I don't trust those people, but you could actually split up your paycheck so it never even lands in your account first. I'm saying paycheck, but I mean like direct deposit. You could just, fill out the forms in your HR department and say, look, first send this to the, Roth, send this here, and then just send me the last $500 to my main account. Like I said, I never got to that point, but like you can do it. Okay. Yeah. So, and he says ways to use psychology. So like, yeah, this is like a psychological thing. Okay. Chapter 6: The myth of financial expertise. Okay, and so this is just basically like we're smart people. We can figure out how to invest in a mutual or in an index fund. Like we don't necessarily need the fancy financial experts and all the like acronyms and all of that stuff. Like you go into when they hand you the paperwork for the 401k options, or you go on the website, you just look for either a S&P Standard and Poor's S&P 500 fund, index fund, or you look for like a total stock market fund. If you scroll over to the expense ratio column, which is basically the expenses that you pay for investing in that, you'll see that those are the ones with the lowest fees. So in the FIRE movement, those are the ones that they recommend. There you go. Saved you a trip to a financial advisor. I think it's kind of irresponsible to like just hand everyone a bunch of investment options and no education at all and just be like, good luck, it's your retirement, hopefully you pick the right stuff. Like, that's wild to me that that's how we do it, but that's how we do it. Okay, so let me see. And then the other thing in this chapter was about like stock picking. A lot of people think that investing means picking stocks. I think I probably used to think that too. But you can invest without picking stocks. You can invest in funds, you can be diversified. I just gave you the shortcut on how to do it. Okay. Chapter 7. Investing isn't only for rich people. Okay, this is kind of how I started the video. And he's basically saying like, oh, he talks about the FIRE movement in here. And he basically is like, if you work the system right and you do all these steps, you might not have to work till you're 65. You can if you want to, but you might not have to. And so this is getting into the heart of the FIRE movement, which is the 4% rule, which is basically you save up enough money over the course of you invest enough money over the course of your working career that you get to a point where you can retire and withdraw 4% of that per year to live on, and it'll last you. It's based on, I think the math is like 25 years, which is like the average retirement. So in the FIRE movement, they just save that amount earlier in life. That's all it is. Instead of you saving and like getting to that point at age 65 and withdrawing it down, they're like, how do we max out our 401k and save and do whatever we need to do to get that amount by age 45 or 50 or 30 or whatever. And that's what the retire early part of financial independence, retire early, is. Okay, let's see. Chapter 8, how to maintain and grow your system. Okay, this is a little bit more in the weeds because at this point we've got our system set up. So that's why he's talking about maintain and grow your system. We've got everything in place. The hard part is just kind of letting the system run. Because like once you have everything in place, you're gonna, well, at least for me, I wanted to keep optimizing. I was like, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? Where can I squeeze out a little bit more return? Where can I lower taxes a little bit? And, I did add things like a HSA, a health savings account. I'll touch on that very, very briefly. So I think, so in order to get a high yields, a, a health savings account, you have to have a high deductible health plan. So at open enrollment time, when they give you the choices, you have to pick the one that's the high deductible plan. So obviously that means like, it's got to work with your situation and your health and whatever. But if you pick that plan, you get to, along with that, contribute to a health savings account. So that's, you put money in, usually through payroll, into this like separate account that you can use to pay for health related expenses, tax free. I think that most people probably, and then if the way you pay for those expenses is that you like submit the receipt and you would, you prove it was a healthcare expense and you pull the money out. But in the FIRE movement, instead of pulling the money out, they leave the money in there and invest it and let it grow and use it as like a second IRA. And for somebody like me who was already in her 40s when she found out about all this stuff, I was like, oh, I can use that to help catch up because my regular IRA is not where it should be for my age, bet. So I have been maxing out a HSA, I think since 2019. And so just like a Roth IRA, there's a limit. Um, I've been putting in the annual limit every year, and I don't withdraw it. I don't like I have some medical, like I have some receipts. I broke my toe. I could like send you the thing for the x-ray, but I just leave it there and let it grow. Um, you can also use it for like Medicare premiums, like whatever the stuff that they don't cover, or the what do they call it, the supplemental plans. I think you can use it for that maybe, but you can for sure use it for the premiums, the Medicare premiums. Um, but yeah, but if you don't, you can just withdraw that money at I forgot what the age is. I want to say, I feel like it's 65 for that, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, you know what? I'm going to find an HSA resource. Actually, no, I'm going to give you a HSA resource. There is a Black lady named Jackie Cummings, Jackie Koski Cummings, I think is her name. And she's like the queen of HSAs. I'm going to link her information in the description for you guys. Um, I will send you to her for the ins and outs of the HSA. So we'll send you to her for that. Okay, so what else? Oh yeah, so I was on maintenance. Okay, so yeah, so now the system is set up. I wanted to optimize. I added the HSA. You know, I kept looking for stuff to optimize. I did max out my 401k for a couple of years. I'm glad I did because that has like helped build the foundation. You know what I consider like the financial foundation that I have. But also, I'm glad I found the FIRE movement because it taught me a lot about how to manage money myself. It took the mystery out of it. Once I started understanding some of the terminology, once I was in Vanguard moving my stuff, you know, doing my little stuff myself, I was like, oh, okay, this is it. That's all. Okay. And then once you do it in one place, you can do it like Fidelity is very similar, Schwab is very similar. And so these doors that I guess in my mind I felt were closed to me or like weren't for me, now no problem. Um, okay. So so that was my journey through FIRE. um, oh, I said I was going to talk about Simple Path to Wealth. Okay. So JL Collins, he is okay. So this says forward by Mr. Money Mustache. Mr. Money Mustache is like the godfather of the FIRE movement. That is the guy who, I don't know, retired at 34 or something crazy, like some crazy young age, but like spread the gospel of like, hey, if you just reduce the cost of your lifestyle and make a couple of intentional decisions, um, you don't have to work your whole life. And people are like, wait, what? So he's like, back in the day, like 2012, he's like one of the early voices. Okay. So then I would call JL Collins like another, I don't know, godfather of the FIRE movement. And this book is basically like, I'm gonna sum it up. I mean, go read it, but what I would sum it up as is invest regularly in diversified, low cost index funds and leave it alone and relax. Don't worry about what the market is doing. Don't worry about what they say on CNBC. Don't worry about what everybody is posting about on social media or the hot new thing or the whatever. Just do this. Be steady about it. 25 years from now, you'll have a healthy amount of money. That's basically, long story short. There's a lot of like psychology and like just kind of helping you tune out the noise in this book. But that's what it is in a nutshell. So that's another book that I would recommend. Okay. I'm trying to think. That's the only other book I pulled over here. I probably have some other FIRE books, but if I think of anything else, I'll put it in the description for you. I've given you the podcasts. I've given you some institutions that I have used personally. I am not recommending any specific investments. But I did share with you like some of the things that I did and am still doing. Um, and yeah, I'm really glad I found it when I did. I wish I had found it when I was a little bit younger. But my retire early is mini retirement. So instead of like, you know, I'm done at 50, uh I am doing like, okay, well, I only have to work 9 months this year and I'll take 3 months off and then I will go get another contract job. And I will live a little bit of life, a little bit of retirement during each break. So that's my version of it. And I think maybe that's what I'll leave you with is like, nothing in the fire movement is like a hard and fast rule. You can kind of make things your own. Maybe you don't want to go as hard at it and max out your 401k. Maybe you want to go a little bit slower, but just faster than age 65. That's fine. Maybe you want to do what I did, which is like instead of grinding and trying to push all the way through to that golden point in the future where I've accumulated the mass amount of money, I'll just kind of take pauses along the way. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do this. People in the fire movement are very creative because like once you figure out and understand this stuff, that's when you're like, oh, okay, I can do this with it. I can do this with my lifestyle. So, so yeah, it was very um empowering. And yeah, I'm glad I found it. I'm glad I found it. So, yeah. So, that is for someone who asked about the fire movement. Hopefully, you guys found that helpful as well. Again, I'll mention that budget worksheet. It's at resetwithceleste.com/budget. And yeah, with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. If you haven't liked this video yet, before you go, please take a moment to like this video. It really does help other Black women who could benefit from this find this information. All right. Thanks, guys.